Back here on HQ Spotlight, we are counting down the days until college football is back. We had a nice treat for a season opener in 2025. Ohio State taking on Texas. Two teams that always have high expectations, it seems, and Ryan Day's squad ultimately coming out on top last season, 14-7 in a very low-scoring affair. And there's going to be a chance for Texas and Sark to get some redemption for this upcoming season. So let's welcome on Chip Patterson as we talk about college football games that we got to circle on our calendars that are must-see TV in 2026. First up, September 12th at 7:30 Eastern Time, a rematch, Chip, between Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah, two of the top four teams in the national title odds. You got two quarterbacks in Arch Manning and Julian Sayin, two of the top four names right there in terms of odds to win the Heisman Trophy. It's the Blue Bloods of the Blue Bloods. It's the headliners. And the thing that is so interesting to me, Jacqueline, is how both of these teams come into this season with a chip on their shoulder. For Ohio State, it's the fact that they were sitting in the catbird seat, ready to go and make a run at a national title. Only what happened? They lose to Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. Then they're one and done in the college football playoff, losing to Miami. So you're at the top of the sport, bang, bang, you're yesterday's news. The Buckeyes should have an edge about them. And the same obviously can be said for Texas. We remember Arch Manning sitting there in the post-game press conference saying this experience was great, but I don't want to be in the Cheez-It Bowl again. Jacqueline, the way that Texas has loaded up in the transfer portal makes me think they're not going to be in the Cheez-It Bowl again. So this could be a preview potentially of a national championship in the same season, given that chip on the shoulder for both these teams.
Okay, and maybe a chip on the shoulder for Michigan as well, because that's what we're talking about next. Oklahoma at Michigan at the Big House, where the Kyle Whittingham era is going to get underway. Plenty of storylines, but what's the biggest one for you?
College football playoff elimination game. It certainly was a year ago when you see Oklahoma getting into the playoff at 10-2, Michigan falling short at 9-3. What was the swing game there? It was Oklahoma getting that win in Norman. Now, will home field advantage be the ultimate decider here? I know Michigan fans are hoping so, because as you mentioned, the Kyle Whittingham of it all makes this fascinating. The hire of Kyle Whittingham after National Signing Day to replace Sharon Moore after Sharon Moore's firing has left the Wolverines in this interesting spot where Michigan fans feel as though they've upgraded their coaching. But the reality is Whittingham, while he is a great coach, certainly to be a Hall of Famer one day, he came in late in the cycle. He had to rush his way into spring practice, and certainly it looked from Michigan's spring game like maybe not everything is fully installed. On the other hand, Brent Venables, coming off that playoff appearance, seems to have Oklahoma running at top speed. So can that Oklahoma team be able to go into Ann Arbor and come out with the win? Because I do think the loser is probably going to find themselves on the outside of the college football playoff picture.
Yeah, given the circumstances with that coaching hire, it was certainly interesting timing that the Wolverines had to work with there. Next up, we're talking about Lane Kiffin, and it's LSU at Ole Miss. Chip, I am excited, I think, to go on X and go on social media the week leading up to this game, just because I feel like it's going to be out of control and entertaining nonetheless.
It's messy. I mean, Jacqueline, this is so messy. I have no idea whether I can even wrap my head. I mean, forget just what we think could happen. What has happened? They threw a mustard bottle at this man at Tennessee. You remember that? When he had to go back to Tennessee, now he's got to go back to Ole Miss, and all he has done is fuel the fire, whether it's taking, top Ole Miss players like Princewell Umanmielen, one of the top defensive players in the SEC, getting him to follow him to Baton Rouge, the assistant coaches who even helped Ole Miss in their playoff run, taking them to go to Baton Rouge, and yes, certainly making a run at many more of those key Rebels players. What about the ones that stayed home, the coaches that stayed home, quarterback Trinidad Chambliss that stayed home, and then Lane Kiffin's offseason commentary about Ole Miss has really made this personal in a way that could make this just the vitriol is going to be palpable even if we aren't there in the building at the Grove.
Yeah, that one's going to be spicy. I have a feeling this next one will be as well. We're talking about Miami and Notre Dame because last season Miami won the head-to-head, and that was a huge talking point and a huge, notch in their corner as to why Miami should get into the CFP over Notre Dame. They ultimately did. Notre Dame gets left out So I have to believe the Fighting Irish are going to go into this one with a chip on their shoulder as well.
100%. And frankly, Notre Dame has a small margin for error for them to be able to accomplish their goals. This Miami game is as must win as it gets, because while those contenders in the SEC and those contenders in the Big Ten have multiple games against other top teams on their schedule, that's not the case for the Fighting Irish. The Fighting Irish have a win total of 11.5. That means that they are saying the likely outcomes for Notre Dame in 2026 are either 11-1 or 12-0. That is bananas, given the way that we have seen the talent even out across the sport, the parity that we continue to see all across the sport. But Notre Dame almost has a throwback style proposition when it comes to contending for the national title this season. They are going to be expected to win almost all of their games, many of them by double digits, but there are a few prove-it games on the schedule. There's also a BYU game on the schedule. There's a game against Wisconsin at Lambeau Field to open the season, but none of them are going to carry the weight of playing against the Miami Hurricanes. And on the Miami side of this, what a fascinating test for this year's Hurricanes team, led by Darian Mensah, Mark Fletcher, Malachi Toney returning from last year's squad, because this game, Jacqueline, as you see, is in South Bend. So we're just asking Miami, which will probably be in the top 10, to go on the road and play probably in cold weather at night under the lights. I mean, you said must-see TV, right? It's hard to get much more must-see TV than the Miami-Notre Dame rivalry in a primetime spot like this.
Absolutely, and you don't want to fall into the trope of the Miami Dolphins that you can't perform in, weather that's below 70 degrees. Let's talk about this final matchup here. Two of the premier programs in the Big Ten. We already talked about the Buckeyes. This time, we're talking about Oregon and Ohio State. Dan Lanning, Ryan Day, a premier matchup, especially when we think back to 2 seasons ago when these teams faced off in the CFP, and it was very lopsided.
Yeah, and also they played for the national championship game in the first year of the college football playoff. In 2021, Oregon went in and got a big win in the shoe that ended up impacting the college football playoff race. There was the regular season game in Autzen with the crazy finish with the 12-man on the field penalty that led to the Dan Lanning rule. I mean, every single game that we have seen between these two teams in the last dozen years has had playoff implications, playoff consequences. And yes, certainly that stunning result in the Rose Bowl after Oregon had gone 13-0 Big Ten champion to just get absolutely stuffed in a locker by the Buckeyes as Ryan Day was on his way to marching Ohio State to a national championship. I mean, this game, especially a little bit later in the season, will probably be a head-to-head result that determines who plays in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship. But more than anything, to me, it's just going to be a way for us to take the temperature of whether or not these teams have what it takes. Because when Dante Moore decided to return to Oregon, he joined what we know is a very talented roster to say that Oregon team can win the national championship. And with Julian Sayin, who, by the way, was a Heisman finalist a year ago, coming back with Jeremiah Smith and where that Ohio State program is right now, every single year they're a national championship contender. We are going to get this game under high stakes, big stage, and it's going to tell us everything that we need to know to prepare us for the playoff push.
So, Chip, we're going to throw a wild card at you. Is there any game that we haven't already discussed that's something that you're really looking forward to matchup-wise?
Yeah, because I'm a sicko. We're dropping NC State and UVA in Brazil. Are you kidding me? Expect the unexpected when it comes to the NC State Wolfpack and the Virginia Cavaliers, who, by the way, played for the ACC championship last season against Duke in one of the most successful seasons in UVA history. Yeah, NC State, UVA, it's the ACC in Brazil. That is week 0, and it'll go ahead and get you set for what's certain to be a season of twists and turns and unexpected results.
Heck yeah, we're looking forward to it. Chip, we certainly appreciate it breaking down some of the most exciting matchups that we have in college football for the 2026 season. The conversation continues over on the Cover 3 podcast. You can hear Chip Patterson there with Danny Cannell, Tom Fornelli, Bud Elliott, always breaking down the very latest headlines happening in college sports, in season, the off season, whenever you need it. You can watch the latest episode right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.